The feeling of missing a lift you know you should not only be making, but be making in your sleep is a feeling I know all too well. Truth be told, when I first started Olympic weightlifting, I was so self-conscious of my form that I would go to my gym at midnight to practice just to avoid the crowd. But only 4 years later, I was lifting in front of a crowd of 5,000 people representing Australia at my first Commonwealth Games event. When starting out weightlifting, it's not always a strength or speed issue holding you back, but technical efficiency holding back the expression of those qualities. Now at this stage, I have reviewed more Olympic lifts than I've had war meals. From a decade of coaching hundreds of athletes worldwide to becoming an Olympian, I've observed the most common fundamental weightlifting errors that kills barbell efficiency. Today, we're going to look at Arturo's clean and jerk submission where he mentions jumping forward in his clean starting to become a problem. So what we'll do is we'll break down his lift, explain when jumping forward becomes an issue, why it happens, and exactly how to fix it. And also, if you want your own lift review just like this, I'll leave a link in the description to follow through and submit your own. Now at a first glance, the jump forward isn't very pronounced, but if we slow it down and zoom in, you can see there is a noticeable jump forward. And although this is actually 10 kilos off his PR, I can imagine as the weight gets heavier and this jump forward starts to become more pronounced, it could begin to cause some mislifts. Now with the jump forward, I tend not to worry too much if the jump forward's only minuscule, but if it starts to become more pronounced, there are a few issues that tend to occur. Firstly, if someone is chasing the bar forward, they may struggle in getting those elbows through and have a bit of front rack instability due to it. Ideally, you want to have a strong front rack position in which your core is braced and your elbows are through as far as they can. If that tends to drop the elbows and the core collapses, it could then cause some issues in the stand-up. Another thing with a pronounced jump forward is you can tend to see a lack of extension in the pull alongside catching in the heels due to chasing the bar forward. And ultimately what it comes down to is just wasted energy when we have issues like this arise. Ideally, if we want to perform a solid jerk, we want to get the most out of our clean as possible without expending too much energy fixing these little issues. When it comes to common causes causing the pronounced jump forward in the clean, it all starts with the first pull from the floor. If you're losing balance in the midfoot in the first pull, essentially all the way up until contact, you're more susceptible to either jumping forward or jumping back. What this may look like from the floor is if your shoulders move behind the bar too early, typically paired with the bar looping around the knee, or inversely if the knees move too far back, shifting all the weight into the heels. What tends to happen beyond this is people will compensate by either bending the arms too early to keep the bar close or sending the hips forward to contact the bar as opposed to using the legs to drive up and having that bar contact happen naturally. Now when it comes to Arturo's clean, if I do slow down the video as the bar passes the knee, you can see that the weight shifts into the heels as the toes begin to rise from the floor. Then to compensate, he sends the hips forward as opposed to focusing on driving vertically with the legs, shifting all of his weight to the front of the foot, causing him to chase the bar to then catch. Now when it comes to fixing this issue, as for cues to think about while you're lifting, I tend to think about pushing the floor away with the legs up until completing extension, alongside keeping a strong chest from the floor in order to maintain balance, alongside having the bar brush with the upper thigh, not banging with the hips. Unless you have the money to pay for child support for the barbell, we do not need to be banging the bar with the upper thigh. Ideally, we want the bar and the upper thigh to meet in the middle as we're extending up, not rowing the bar into the hips early or having the hips come forward early to meet the bar. This is when we tend to have issues with either jumping back or jumping forward. Now, in terms of drills to fix this specifically, I would tend to start warming up with an empty bar doing tall cleans. Essentially what this looks like is starting in an extended position with the empty barbell and focusing on getting the elbows up high and pulling under while getting the elbows through. This then reinforces a vertical finish where you don't have your shoulders behind the bar too early and need to chase it forward. From there, I'll then transition into some high hang power clean or full clean work where you're then implementing that dip and drive alongside it. From there, I would then implement some pause clean pull work, whether that be 2 position pause below and above the knee, or in this situation for Arturo, essentially just pausing above the knee or mid thigh in order to maintain that midfoot balance, or in the case for Arturo, as the bar passes the knee, up until mid-thigh, he tends to have his weight already off-center to a degree. So implementing some pauses here will give that feel of having the weight in the midfoot for him to then extend straight with the legs. And finally, if you're still jumping forward, one trick that I did for myself when I had a massive donkey kick when I started snatching and cleaning is I took the feet out altogether and performed some no feet cleans, no feet power cleans. I've also done it in my snatch work as well, and that worked wonders as it keeps you grounded, reinforces midfoot balance, and a stronger vertical extension. Now, if you found these tips, drills, exercises helpful, I have a free 4-week technical intensive program in the description you're free to pick up. It covers the snatch, the clean, and the jerk in terms of exercise progressions, positional playbook, and a 4-week program. Now I'm going to move on into some of my own training where I have some power clean and split jerks, and I wanted to touch on one thing that I did pick up in Arturo's jerk, and that has to do with the tempo in which that he dipped. I'll explain it as I warm up. Now, if there's one thing I try to focus on when warming up for split jerks is the tempo in which I dip. If I slow down Arturo's video here, you can see when he dips that the bar disconnects from the shoulders and reconnects at the bottom of the dip. And when this happens, it can cause you to buckle at the bottom of the dip and throw out timing for the split jerk. If you fast forward through his jerk, you can see that it plays into the split not going exactly how he would planned. If he were to dip with a little more control and keep the barbell on the shoulders, it would then act like somewhat of a slingshot leading into the jerk, as opposed to fighting a falling barbell at the bottom of the dip, which can cause a bit of a timing issue. If you're someone who struggles with this, something you can implement when you're warming up is throwing in some light pause jerks, or after jerks, adding in some pause push presses just to work on that control and maintaining connection in the dip. Now, if you've made it this far and you need direct help with your weightlifting, I have a free 7-day trial to my Raising Minimums team below. You'll get access to programming, community, and direct feedback from myself in the community chat. I'll leave a link down in the description for a free trial below.